Okay, B'siyata Dishmaya Perek Chof Base. Join us over here. So we learned in Perek, that's a little bit of a sikkim, right? Because we said that these prokim are specifically connected, and we're going to try to get some clarity when we get to the end. So in Perek Chof, we understood and we said clearly that we have specifically 2 commandments, right, of the Aseret Dibros, and that contain pretty much everything within those commandments, okay? Then, in Perek Chof Aleph, last week we learned that Anochi Hashem means that the Ribbono Shel Olam is the only and sole source of existence, okay? Over here, we're going to go now to the second commandment, okay? Perek Chof Beis, here we go. Rak, Shahatorah Dibra Kaloshim B'nei Adam. Remember we spoke about this idea that the Ribbono Shel Olam's speech is unlike the speech of a human being. Because our speech, if you remember, is separate when it comes out of us, unless it's still inside. But once we've said it, once we've explicitly said what we had to say, it becomes separate. By the Ribbono Shel Olam, the speech in Hashem is all one thing, okay? So now we're going to explain a bit more about that. Why the Ribbono Shel Olam uses that lashon of speech if it's not really the same thing as human speech. The Torah speaks generally in the way that human beings speak. The Nikra b'Torah Diburei Shel Mokim Baruch Hu, and it's called in the Torah Dibur Shel Hashem, b'Shem Dibur Mamish, K'Diburei Shel Adam. Just like the Dibur of an Adam is called Dibur, so by Hashem we also call it Dibur. Why? I thought it's different. So the Heilige Baal Tanya. Levi shebe'emes kachu derech iridas v'hamshochas hachayus letachtoinim b'tzimtzumim rabim v'atzumim minim shoinim. That means there is some kind of emes, truth, for the fact that we call it Dibur by Hashem. Why? Because just as Dibur takes a feeling, it takes an emotion and explains it and quantifies it, puts it in some kind of writing text, letters, okay? There's a tzimtzum going on. Because really the emotion inside me is much greater than that. We spoke about it by the Holocaust survivors. They didn't want to speak anything because they didn't want to put what they felt into words. Because it minimizes it, okay? It's mitzamtzim it. You want to say it waters it down, right? It dilutes it. So too by Hashem. The same things by the Ribbono Shel Olam, by divine speech. That yes, it's like a human being's speech in the sense that at the end of the day, it has to come down to the lower world and immediately gets diminished on the way. Okay? Boris mehem burim rabim minim shoinim v'chol kach govru v'otzmu hatzimtzumim v'hesteponim alyonim at yuchol avois boris gam dvorim tameim v'klipas sitra acher. In other words, it's so much mitzamtzem, it's so much gets diluted, and the energy gets lower and lower as it comes down to the world, that it even creates dvorim tameim v'klipos v'sitra acha. That's the other bad side. Or lekabel chayusam v'kiyumam midva Hashem, which they themselves, the Ra, the klipos v'sitra acha, which we'll speak about in a minute, derive their chiyus, their energy, their life source from Dvar Hashem. That means Lamaisa, all of this diminishment, all of these tzimtzumim that we keep on talking about, that's how Tomei things in this world are able to be created by the Ribbono Shel Olam, because of the light of Hashem was completely undiminished. It was pure in its real sense, like it is up there, and it was completely, there was no tzimtzum, right? There was no diminishment as it goes down to this world. Then these Tomei things would never be able to be in the world. They'll never be able to be created. They'll never be able to be in the being. Basically, I'll explain to you what he's trying to do. He's trying to explain a very big issue. People ask this question many times. Is there such a thing as something bad in this world? And how can it be? Not everything Hashem does is good. Called the Ovid Rachman Latav Ovid, the Gemara tells us, right? Had that in Brachos. So which means everything Hashem does is good. There's no Ra in the world. What the Baal Tanya is explaining, how is it, Lemaisa, that there's a connection between Ra, bad, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? If at the end of the day there's nothing separate to Hashem. Hashem and everything He creates is one with Him. So that would come out that the Ra is Hashem. What does that mean? How does that work? And the answer is, and what we're going to explain even more, is through tzimtzumim. Through the fact that it gets diluted and diluted and diluted, it can memela create these sitra acha, these bad things that get their chiyas from Hashem. Therefore, Nikroin Elohim Acherim. This is the second command of the Aseret Dibros. Perek Chav talked about the first one. This is the second one. That's why we call them Elohim Acherim. In other words, the second commandment of the Aseret Dibros is do not worship other gods, small g. Says the Tikkun HaZoya. Why does it use specifically this phrase? Because it applies to any negative force and any klipa that is based on the word Acherim. Because the root of the word acherim, we're going to learn more about that in a minute, is the back. It's from the behind, from the back. Because all negative forces at the end of the day only became into being when the Rabbeinu Shalom, so to speak, from the back, from the behind, creates them. Let's have a look. Mipnei, sheyinikosam, v'chayusam elim mepchinas ponim. Their yinika, their life source, right? Their source of life and their energy does not come mepchinas ponim, from the face, from the front, and mepchinas achirayim, the kedusha. There are two ways that the Rabbeinu Shalom expresses himself in the world, in the bria. One of them is ponim, like when you see someone's face, you can see their expressions. You can see what if they're happy, if they're sad, you can see what the situation is, right? You can see the rotzen. But then there's also achirayim, right? That's also where the Rabbeinu Shalom expresses himself in the world, where there's no actual expression there. Okay, again, we're going to explain more. Let's say you have to give something to someone that you really don't like. So you have to give it to him. So you're going to give it to him. But you're going to do it in a way that you're really going to show him, I don't like to do this to you. You're going to throw it like behind your shoulder, like, take it, go for it, take it. Like, I'm going to give it to him because I have to. But I'm going to do it in a way that's not my ponim. It's not ponim, it's not the front, it's not the expression, it's not real. So too by the Rabbanon Shalom b'chinas ponim hu mipnimas harotzon ha'elyon v'chovtzo amiti asher chovat Hashem lashpei chiyus, that the Rabbanon Shalom wants to give his chiyus l'chol ha'kor v'elov, anything that's close to him is citrus to kedusha, that comes from holiness. Avol. So the ponim, the kedusha the kazachan, they get from the ponim. Aval asitra achra, the bad stuff, v'atuma he toyavas Hashem ashosani. It's disgusting. It's despicable. Hashem hates that. They never spiel mipnimis rotzen. Because Baruch doesn't give it chiyas from mipnimis, from the ponim, from the front, so to speak. Again, kavayachol. V'chevtzoi ha'amiti asher chovetz bo chas v'shon ki'im commander shadei v'asa kasvoi l'sonei shalei b'tzonei. The Rabbeinu Shalom sustains these klippers like someone that throws something behind their shoulder, like to their back, to someone that they hate. Rak, this is very important, and this is going to answer the kasha. You may be asking, so why does Hashem have them in the world? If he doesn't like them, doesn't want them, why does he have them? In other words, the reason that the Rabbeinu Shalom wants the Ra into the world is only as a means to punish the Rishayim, because Ra is a necessity in the creation of the world so that the Tzaddikim can earn something and the Rishayim can get punished. So the Rabbeinu Shalom Be'etzem has no rotzen in the Ra, in the bad in the world, but he just wants it to exist for the purpose of the world, so that Rishayim can get punished and Tzaddikim can get rewarded. That's called a charaim. The rotzen elyon baruch hu in that case. So there are two types of rotzen that we're saying that the Baal HaTanya is introducing us to. One is called ponim, something that the Rabbeinu Shalom actually wants. And the other is called acharayim, from the back, which means HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't actually want it, but he understands it's necessary to be in the bria, in the creation. V'hinei, let's try to finish the parak. V'hinei, rotzon ha'elyon b'b'chinas ponim u'b'kol chayim v'hamachya es kol ha'ilamos, ולפי שאין השויה, כלל הסitra אחר, וגם בכנס החריים של rotzon ha'elyon, אין מלובש בסויcha, it's not really dressed over their mamish, and the makeh עולה מלמעלה, it's like, surrounding it slightly, לקח עמוק מהמיסה, והתuma Hashem yishmerenu, which means even the energy that the tumah gets is from the behind of Hashem, even that is not properly absorbed in it, like the side of the Kedusha. It gets a little shmek, it gets a little something, because it needs some kind of energy, it needs to continue. It's like mamish golus, it's like exile. Now we can understand the second of the Aseret Adibros, which is called Elohim Acherim. Don't worship other gods, small g. She avodah zara mamish. That's avodah zara. Ukvira b'achdusay shel melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. when a person is koifer of the achdus of Hashem, it's not bottled to Hashem. This sitra acha magbia atzma. Ani va'afsi oid. Right? In other words, there is me. There's no one else besides me. That's why the Gemara tells us in Saita, people don't understand this Gemara. They read this Gemara, they're like, come on, that's a little bit harsh. The Gemara says in Saita Daf Dalet, when a person's a balgaiva, that's like avodah zarah. Whoa, calm down, I get it. People are balgaiva, but it's like, I'm serving idols? What am I doing wrong? No. According to the Tanya's Mahalach, key. What is the shayrish? The root of avodah zarah. Someone that holds himself to be separate and individuality himself other than the kedusha of Hashem. It's not someone who's kaif in Hashem. Obviously, that's avodah zarah. Someone who's kaif Hashem, but it doesn't have to go that far. It can go to someone that just holds himself to have some kind of chashivas, some kind of something on his own. That's already avodah zarah. The Gemara says in Menachos Daf Kuf Yud, to correlate Allah, right? In other words, they refer to him as God of gods. So there's others, chas v'sholem. They're separating themselves from the kedusha of Hashem, since they're not being bottled to him in that case over there. Right? The Baal Shem Tov explains the Maisa, that someone that separates from Hashem, right? At the end of the day, that means you're turning away your attention from attaching to Hashem. It's as if you're doing avodah zarah. It's the same idea as the Heilige Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh. Ki ein kedusha elyonos shoyra ela amasha bottle loy isbar kanal. The Indian of bittel, the Indian of bittel. That's what he's talking about. That the kedusha that comes from Shemayim is only shoyra on a person that's mevatel himself to Hashem. If you're a balgaiva, you're not mevatel yourself to Hashem. You hold yourself to be a baldova. But nikram, that's why it's called Tura de Peruda, divided mountain peaks, because they're separate B'Zohar Kodesh. That's what they call in the Zohar Kodesh. So the Achdus of Hashem means that the person is bottled, he's mevatel himself to the Rabbeinu Shalom. When a person holds himself and feels himself as a Metzias, then he's essentially being koifer in the Achdus and the amitus of the Rabbeinu Shalom, which is why a gas is a ruach, a balgaiva is better like avodah zarah, because the inyan of avodah zarah is kfir in the achdus Hashem, and therefore that's what you think of yourself as someone of them. And of course, this, by the way, was the root of the machlokes between the Chasidim and the Misnagdim, which we spoke about already before, and that idea of lishma, lo lishma, is about being mevatel yourself. When the Chasidim were very into being mevatel yourself, ich bin a gunisht, I'm nothing, and the Misnagdim were like, well, what do you mean? You got to hold yourself to be choshev, and yes, I'm something, and the Chasidim were like, no, that goes against everything. This was a lot of this, what the Baal Tanya just wrote in Perek Chav Beis, was subject to a major shaila between the Chasidim and the Misnagdim over here specifically. But if you look at the Nefesh HaChaim, you can resolve this very easily. Everyone's holding the same mahala, they just say it in different ways. But upon him, the idea of bittul means I am nothing. Everything is Hashem, everything in the world is Hashem, and there's nothing but that. When a person is a Baal Gaiva, he takes away from that. And that's why he explained in the beginning, that's why the idea of Elihim Acherim means I'm serving others doesn't mean necessarily chas v'shalom a person bowing down to idols, but it means anything other than God. If you believe there's something else in the world, apart from that. Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow, B'siyat Shmaya, Perek Chav Gimel.